So I'm Danielle Hatch, and I'm based in Northwest Arkansas, so the Arkansas Ozarks. So I'm here to install an exterior textile installation on the museum. I'm engaging with the addition to the museum as well as the historic chancellor's residence. Sure. So the process of creating this installation has been kind of evolving over the last about 6 months, I would say, maybe even a little longer. So the director, Sarah Siegerlin, he reached out to me with this opportunity to begin to think about what would an exterior installation on the Greg look like. And so kind of my process usually begins with site visits, spending some time in the space that I'm going to be engaging with. So last fall, I had the opportunity to visit Raleigh and spend some time just kind of in the environment of the museum, getting to know the folks that kind of inhabit this space day to day, as well as kind of getting a sense for how the community experiences the space. So I spent a lot of time sitting out on your lovely grounds, kind of watching the flow of traffic past the museum into the space, really just kind of trying to draw as much information as I could from my time here on campus, and then also diving into historical archives and looking at some fantastic books that you all shared about the history of the Chancellor's House, and started to kind of think about how did we get to this point architecturally and community-wise. From there, sort of conceptualized an installation based on the lives of two historic women in the Raleigh community. One who was based here within the Chancellor's home, a housekeeper, Hattie Ruffin, and then another female businesswoman in the community, Lily ODK, who owned a dressmaking company. I took kind of the forms for the installation from some motifs that I saw within Hattie's residence in the Chancellor's home, these lovely sort of scalloped curtains that she had within her space, and then also looking at a lot of examples of Willie's like debutante dresses and wedding dresses. Again, this idea of like, where did beauty and softness reside within the community and who was creating those motifs. And then color-wise, really looking at the history of the university. I loved that the original school colors were the sort of robin egg blue and pale pink. I thought those were really evocative colors. And I have my ancestry is Peruvian, and so I always look to the sort of Peruvian textiles in terms of the way that I arrange color and think about kind of sort of larger geometric patterns that I play with. So it sort of was pulling a little bit from Raleigh and a little bit from my own history in the way I sort of layered color on the installation. Kind of my journey to art making at this moment really started in my undergraduate architectural studies. And so that involved a lot of site visits, which I found just to be a great sort of starting point for beginning to think creatively about space. Beginning to have this idea that we are empowered to kind of interact with our spatial environments, that these environments aren't neutral, that there is a history to the spaces that we inhabit, and then also that spaces can be viewed through a feminist lens as well. I studied at a women's college, and so kind of viewing space through those different lenses, and then also just coming with a real curiosity and continued to kind of just question the environments that I inhabited. So I moved around a lot, but was always sort of looking around and imagining and thinking about space as a relationship. I think sometimes I think about architecture as like a declarative statement. There's a sense of permanence to it, and the artwork that I create, sometimes I think of it as like a question that I'm asking to the space itself. So just kind of a dialogue back and forth. So, you know, who is reflected in this space? What is the emotional experience of this space? And how can I kind of articulate that through a piece of artwork? The way that I see those threads of feminism and female like interiority in my work specifically is that I really, as I'm researching history, I tend to gravitate towards female narratives, first-person narratives, just out of a general curiosity for the lives that women have led, which are not always maybe articulated in larger histories. As a woman, I love to maybe see more of the feminine lived experience reflected architecturally, just an acknowledgement that these narratives and stories exist and that they're important for us in understanding who we are in this moment and kind of how we've got here. So in the sort of life that I've led to this point, I've become more and more interested in this idea of the importance of the process being just as significant as the outcome, if not more. So this idea of like, how am I relating to other people as we are making the work, as a collective, that is just as meaningful as, the object or the installation that is the outcome of the work. And I think that also maybe connects to the work that I've done in museum education and community engagement, just seeing the sort of joy and creativity that exists within collaborative endeavors. And so I really do view my practice and the art that I create not as like a monolithic entity, but a sort of back and forth with the viewer and with the environment. And that's a reflection of like the process of making as well.